all this week. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, meanwhile, suggesting that if politics get in the way of the Hillary Clinton private email server investigation, that a rogue FBI agent may take matters into his own hands. Grassley telling the Des Moines Register, quote, "If there's political interference, then I assume that somebody in the FBI is going to leak these reports, and it is either going to have an effect politically or it's going to lead to prosecution if there's enough evidence." FBI Director James Comey addressing the issue last week, claiming that no election deadlines are standing in his way.
Somebody asked me in the States about whether I think the question was, is the Democratic National Convention I forget what the question was, a hard stop for you, or is that a key date for you? Are you doing this investigation aimed at, and I said, no.
Joining us right now to sort it all out, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to see you.
Good morning.
It is pretty extraordinary that Grassley would say the FBI may very well leak it.
Look, everybody that's involved in law enforcement knows that sometimes law enforcement improperly and illegally leaks information to the press in order to affect the public perception of their case against the defendant. Sometimes it's to affect a jury pool. Sometimes it's to stir the pot. Sometimes these are bona fide whistleblowers. Sometimes these are people frustrated by their superiors. But it is highly unusual for the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee to anticipate the need for an FBI leaking like this and to suggest that it would be wise for it to happen. Now, there is a caveat in here. He did say, I'm not asking the FBI to do it because it's a crime to leak this kind of information, and the FBI knows it. But he would not be surprised if FBI agents who truly believe that there is enough evidence to indict Mrs. Clinton and to convict her on both the email charge and the public corruption charge will feel frustrated and stymied by the political people in the Justice Department and will want the public to know what they know. If that class of people, be more than one person, leaks information to the press. I agree with Senator Grassley. If there is a leak, and if what is leaked is credible, and let's face it, what is already publicly known is credible, that the president could have a Saturday night massacre, Watergate-style disaster on his hands in the last 6 months of his presidency.
The whole idea of this suggests that people are expecting politics to get in the way. The whole idea of this suggests that either President Obama is somehow telling somebody, or one of his people telling the State Department or the FBI, lay off Hillary ahead of the election. I mean, that's what this suggests.
You know, when Chris Wallace interviewed the president, it was a dynamite interview, and the president should not have asked some of Chris's questions. The questions were terrific and appropriate, but the president is involved in this. How is the president involved? Some of the top secret emails, top secret, on her server were sent to her by him. So the president has a stake in this. He does not want this case to be tried. Right. He did insist to Chris politics would not be involved. Many years ago, a good friend of our boss, Roger Ailes, a now deceased columnist for the New York Times, Bill Sapphire, coined a phrase for the Justice Department. You'll like this. The Department of Political Justice. No matter who's running the Justice Department, there's a branch in there called the Department of Political Justice, which will stop the indictments of people they don't want indicted. That's what the FBI is running up against.
Judge, can we come back to these Grassley comments? They struck me as a little on the vague side. Do you think he knows something? In other words, do you think he knows that there are FBI agents who are frustrated with the way this investigation is going and who want to leak something? Or is he just kind of speculating and playing politics himself and saying, hey, this better come out if the top people...
It's a great question. I don't know what he knows, but I do know that it is generally known in Washington that the same team of FBI agents that investigated and led to the prosecution of General Patraeus is investigating Mrs. Clinton. And many on that team believe that General Petraeus got a slap on the wrist.
There you go.
And because the evidence in Mrs. Clinton's case is exponentially greater, they do not want to see this happen again.
Can she survive a slap on the wrist?
I don't think she can survive any kind of charge against her, even if they let her plead to what's called an information, which is an agreement to plead to something. It's technically an indictment. I don't think she can survive that and stay as a political candidate. I also don't think she could survive the leakage of enough information that causes neutral observers to say, why wasn't she indicted?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think she can politically survive that.
I'll tell you where I disagree with FBI Director Comey when he says there is no deadline. That's not fair to the American people.
No, it's
That's not fair
That's
to
right.
registered Democrats.
That's a great point.
They have resources. Comey's got unlimited resources.
So wait,
he's the director. He can say, I want everyone working on this. He has to say before the convention, this is a candidate you guys can have.
I totally agree.
You have to pick another Democrat because she's going to be
indicted. That's not fair to the people. I totally agree with that.
It's not fair to the Democrats. It's not fair to the American public. No one knows what his deadline is. Last October, he led us to believe January. In January, he led us to believe May. May is a week from today.
I know.
So I really don't know. But we do know that they are...
He did say he wanted to be wrapped up by the end of May.
Correct. We do know that they are nearing the end of their investigation, and we know it because they have called in her 5 closest aides, the same 5 people that are about to be deposed in the Freedom of Information Act case. And the last step in this investigation will be to invite Mrs. Clinton in. She says she can't wait to talk to them. Probably not true. Nobody being investigated by the FBI can't wait to talk to them. But she has a Hobson's choice. She has the politically safe thing to do, which is to go in. But that's legally treacherous for her to go in and expose herself.
I would never allow my client under the circumstances to go in as a criminal.
Because you don't want them to say anything that they will.
Nothing at all. I'm not going to help their investigation at all. But as a politician, if she says no, I'm not going to cooperate,
that in and of itself is a statement.
I don't see how this advances in an election year, especially in an election year with so much at stake and with the Republican Party in so much turmoil. How does this Justice Department
then there will be a
case like this?
Right.
I don't know what you mean, advance it. Meaning you don't think there will be an indictment.
Indict.
You know, there are people in the FBI. Well, there are people in the FBI, and unfortunately for Mrs. Clinton, she's in the hands of these people who are absolutely apolitical, particularly the National Security Team, the same team that investigated General Patraeus. They couldn't care less about the politics of the country. Their job is to investigate violations of criminal law, or in this case, breaches of national security. And they don't care about timing. They don't care about politics. They don't care about politicians. They honestly don't even care about their boss. They care about the Constitution and the security of the nation.
And that's where there will be resignations if there's something there and they don't get what they want.
There is a theory that Comey himself, if he pushes aggressively for presenting this evidence to a grand jury and is rebuffed by his bosses, will lead the resignations. Then the president has a Saturday Night Massacre in his hands.
His boss would be the Attorney General of the United States of America, Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
So, I mean, she would have to be the one. If Comey comes in and says, look,
another Brooklyn.
If Comey comes into the Attorney General and says, look, here's all the evidence. We have enough for an indictment. Let's go in. And she says no.
Then comes the leak. Then comes the leak.
Right.
Judge, good to see you. Thanks for explaining it all. Judge Napolitano there. Up next,